Okay. And as I stated, Dr. Bates was instrumental in starting this dialogue. And Dr. Baith, you've been here since the beginning of it. What has been your role?
Primarily to identify several of the steps, which what people like to call the passages that we talk about. Traditionally, people talk about what they call the middle passage. And traditionally, when we talk about passages, you got two different types of understanding. You have the slaves within the bottom of the ships, and then you have what is generally conceived to be Europeans on top of the ship. And so what Dr. Bates and I have been talking about is that it is a factor. We have to turn that off, don't we?
Yeah.
Ask him how, could you do me a favor? If you bring me that, I'll turn it off. That's my fault.
These things happen. Someone's phone is going off. It's all right.
Yeah, it's mine. I'll turn it off.
Oh, it's okay.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah,
what do we do now?
you were speaking about the middle
I start all over again?
No.
I can just start from
Keep
here?
going.
Okay,
Keep
good.
going. Yeah.
So the middle passage is what everybody talks about. And they talk about, that is where people begin to conceive we're dealing with a black-white issue, is what we're talking about. And what Dr. Bates and I were talking about in terms of trying to bring this into an existence is that there's a unique reason why Charlottesville has to be the beginning of this conversation. Because when we talk about slavery in America, people think about a ship that came into Tidewater, what were you saying?
Williamsburg.
Williamsburg.
Yeah.
And this Tidewater situation, you got 20 slaves on the ship, and correctly, it's the first group of slaves that were sold. But what we're talking about is something very uniquely different. We're talking about the development of America and the role of slavery in America. And that one of our most prestigious founding fathers, Jefferson, former President Thomas Jefferson, has a significant role. His family plays a significant role in the existing consequences of what slavery brought into this country. And what we're talking about is three different steps of passages. It's the initial thing of passage that started off, which is the first thing we began to talk about. The middle passage is the ship, which everybody knows the story about the ship. And then that third level is what happens after the people got here. And I believe that Dr. Bates would be much more proficient in identifying the role of how slavery in this country began its blossoming, to begin to expand. It was not in Williamsburg, Virginia. It was Charlottesville that began the process of what people traditionally call seasoning. Do you know seasoning? Mm-hmm. Seasoning in the early 1700s. These three passages were passages of seasoning. You season people going through certain things. And we talked about rendition at one time, correct? Mm-hmm. It's when you were in one particular area and then you move these, you capture slaves first. First thing was capture slaves, all right? You capture, then you have to control, you have to imprison. Once you get the people in prison, then you have to start taking them, certain things have to occur. You have to take things away from them.
Okay, well let me ask this question.